A pleasant good afternoon, everyone. Sorry. All right. It's good to follow the chief when you're on his side, eh? Members of this house, let me first thank the people of Bukum and Pleasant and Canaan, on whose strength I stand. They have given me this opportunity to stand in this August chamber to deliberate on issues Tobago. Let me welcome everyone who is listening to the debate. I want to single out Miss Lewis in the public gallery. Is she there? Yes. She carries a beautiful first name. Is it Anthurium? Yes. And she's a bishop student prepping for youth Tobago House of Assembly debate, and she thought it best to come to the house to witness the house in action. And I'm happy today she got a sample of everything. I'm happy representative for Roxborough sat in, and she was able to witness him get replies to his concerns. So welcome, my goodly sister. She's my archery coach. All right, so we're pressing on. I must thank my family and my support base. When I said family, some names came to mind apart from Craig and Grant. We have Duncan, we have Richardson, Coker, and the other 37 names which I wouldn't repeat. Should I exhaust those names, you'll discover truly we are one family. Yeah? So we are in the house, and the goodly Secretary for Finance presented a motion for consideration, one that we definitely will support, looking at the prioritizing of the allocation for Tobago coming out of the budget presentation of the Minister of Finance in Trinidad. Weaponizing monies against Tobago is nothing new in this fiscal year. Last night I was listening to some comments and budget presentation from as way back as 2016, when the then PNM administration was admitting that the allocation was not sufficient. However, they were willing to work with it. And that tune always changed depending on who was running central government. But on this side, we will not give up, we will not surrender our demand for our just due as an island government running this island of Tobago. While I was sitting here, call this inspiration from the goodly member for Bethel New Grange, a biblical analogy came to mind. There's a gentleman in the Bible who fasted for 40 days. And when I saw the 40 days, there's also a belief in biblical terminology that says, in prophetic language, you could interpret a day for a year. And he fasted for 40 days before he confronted the evil that was to come. A day for a year would take us from 1980 to 2020. And a day for a year would suggest that was 40 years. And when he confronted this enemy, the enemy sought to make him offers, to have him side with him on issues. But all the offers he made was to offer him things that he already owned. You get your words. He told him, do this and I'll give you that. And when I hear certain people in political space telling Tobagonians, do this and I'll give you that, I couldn't help but strike the parallel. That evil force was trying to convert the Son of the living God to follow his way. The analogy was just on point, in my opinion. And I do not subscribe to the view that we are twin islands. I see us as two islands reaching towards something special, but it's just that one is behind the other. I was in Monterville last week, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, and saw a yacht moving across the bay with a little boat being dragged behind. And anywhere that yacht chose to go, that boat had to go along with him. And it reminded me of the way our unitary state is functions. Some people choose to use the parallel of husband and wife. And I definitely am not in agreement with that because I'm not on the wife's side in this case. So what do we have here? We have budget after budget coming to the Tobago House of Assembly. We analyze the budget. We respectfully submit them to central government. They look at our budget. And I was able to pull some figures. And when I look at the 10-year experience of the Tobago journey, from 2016 to 2025, I did a quick mathematics that shows that Tobago actually got for development programs, on paper, $2.8 billion towards our development over 10 years. And we actually requested of central government $18.3 billion. We actually get 15% of what we asked for over the last 10 years. And it says something. It says that our development on the island of Tobago is not a priority as far as central government is concerned. It says that 4.03 is enough. But then there is another challenge to the 4.03. You do not always get 4.03 because at the end of a fiscal, because the monies do not come to the island on time and at the stipulated period, which is a 3-month period. Have you ever been owed monies and the person chose to give you money in bits and pieces? Somehow at the end of the period, you could never realize the dreams you had for the money. Yeah? Somebody owe you $1,000, and instead of giving you $1,000, they give you 100 every week. And at the end of the period, at the end of 10 weeks, you can't see where the money has gone. And this is what is happening with the way our monies are received in Tobago. And this is something that is working against us. So at the end of a fiscal, we could never really realize what we want. And though I'm not the Secretary for Finance, I'm here long enough to understand. And as somebody who has been in the private sector, I understand how overdrafts work. And the fact that we have to continually rely on our overdraft in the absence of monies being allocated on time means, of course, there is a cost because the overdraft will generate interest. So as an island, we continue to agonize for our just due. That brought something else to my consciousness. The fact that monies never come on time, which is against the law. I was looking at the 6.8 in the proposed bill for the proposed autonomy bill. And I'm saying, if you cannot honor us in how you deal with 4.03, how will you honor us with 6.8? There is no guarantee that we'll get our monies on time. There's no guarantee that we'll actually get 6.8. And so when I heard the Goodly Chief Secretary, the member for Sonny, speak to the 4 main points of the autonomy bill, although we came here just to discuss the budget and the reprioritization of the budget, we cannot discuss it in absence of really looking at the whole autonomy conversation. Equality of status, a true definition of Tobago, federal type system, and so on. Now, some of my colleagues said they were not going to be long, yet they exhausted their 40 minutes. And I feel compelled to show them today what it means when they say it wouldn't be long. The funny thing is, as it is, I am not seeing anything on the horizon to suggest that when you move the Tobago allocation from 4.03 to 6.8, it is based on an increase in GDP. So we have an economy which the Minister of Finance always speaks in glowing terms about, yet he begins with glowing terms and ends with sorrows. So it's easy to see that if the 6.8 could be allocated with the acceptance of the autonomy bill as presented, then we could get it now. We could get it now, unless over the next year, there is some windfall of income to hit the country that will make the 6.8 plausible, but we could get it now. And not just the 6.8, there's so much more we could get now. And that's why we need to put our feet down on this autonomy matter and really agonize for it. We need to do whatever we need to do to get it. Because without it, we will continually be given bits and pieces of what is our right until our grandchildren move on. So, my goodly Deputy Presiding Officer, Tobago stands on the edge one more time, and I must say I'm happy to be in the House in this season in Tobago's history. It is my hope and prayer that by the time I leave this House, this autonomy dream will be realized. In the book of Matthew, chapter 4, and verse 10, as I conclude, after 40 days of fasting and prayer, which in my prophetic eye ended in 2020, we are in the season now after the temptations. And to end the temptations, the Master used some very compelling words. He said, "Get thee hence, Satan." If my parallel stands true, the people of Tobago need to understand where we are, where we've been, and not just listen to what any sweet talk anybody has to say. I was privileged on my journey here to speak to the pretty little things. And that analogy I used back then spoke to the fact that in an effort to get people to sell out each other in the African historical story of our ancestors, they gave them pretty little things. And in exchange, they would sell out their own friends and relatives to be kidnapped and brought to the Caribbean. And even now, today, that is being used as a means of getting the masses of Tobagonians to subscribe to something tricky and something deceptive. I quote Matthew chapter 4 with confidence. That particular passage, and I do not want to get into the judgment that is allotted to the Almighty. I do not want to get into that stage. But you must be able to call a spade a spade. And when as an island, we continue to go through, now people don't even understand this morning what they're fighting for. All that is connected to the autonomy story. Should we get the allocations we deserve? I was explaining to a young lady recently, and she was saying, why can't she get a morning walk? I said, listen, I say when we build new spaces, when we build new carriageways, there'll be a need for maintenance workers. There'll be a need for people to keep these places in prime condition. If we have nothing new on the island, why are we bringing on new workers? And the Tobagonian need to understand, and I want the Tobagonian to really understand that. As the island grows, then the demand for jobs will grow. And not just to be morning workers, but contribute to this debate.